Hey everyone, thanks for tuning in to today's video. I'm really excited to show you guys the method that I use for transforming my artwork into prints and also stickers. Now, I've been creating illustrations for well over 7 years now, and throughout that time, I learned how to make my own prints. Many artists will create prints of their work, and some might use print shops and others will do them themselves. I decided to do the do-it-yourself method, and I learned through a lot of trial and error, a lot of Google searches and YouTube tutorials in figuring out how to make the best prints possible. So today what we're going to be doing is we're going to be looking at this illustration. It's the mountain bike illustration, and we're going to go through the process of creating a print. Now, the process that I use is the one that works best for me. I know that there's a lot of different ways into creating a print, and believe me, the way that I make prints today is not how I make prints 3 or 4 years ago. So I've evolved the way that I do my own prints because, well, I've learned the system, the programs, the graphic design softwares. I learned how to become more efficient and better at it as the years went on. So this might also still not be the most efficient and best way of making a print, but it is the best way that I know how to make a print today. So yeah, without further ado, let's get started and go to our first step of digitalizing this illustration. All right, first things first, we need to scan the illustration over to the computer. So what we're going to be using is my printer here, which has a scanner at the top. Now this is an Epson ET8550. I'll be going over the details of the printer when we get to the printing process of the video, but for now we're going to use this top portion of it to scan the illustration over to my computer. So first things first, I open up the image into a photo editing software, just so I can brighten up the detail that gets lost through the scanning process. Since I have done this many times before, I have presets that increase the contrast and brighten up the colors. Next, I take the edited image and open it in Adobe Illustrator. With my style of artwork, there is a lot of negative space as the background is all white. However, if I try to just print directly from an image file, well, the printer is going to print the white parts too, which often will show as an off-white tone. There are also tiny specks here and there, probably from just pen marks going off, or possibly little specks of dust that were on the scanner. And yeah, if I don't clean this up, then those marks are going to show up in the prints, which is something we don't want. So my main task here is to remove all of the white background. I start by tracing the outside of the bike, which is a bit of a lengthy process, so I'm just going to speed this part up. But once the tracing is complete, I am able to create a clipping mask of the image. It's a little bit tough to see what actually is happening here, but once I move the design down into the gray space, you can see that the background is no longer there. This leaves us with the inside portions of the bike still white, so we need to do a few more things to remove those sections. What I end up doing is tracing the inside negative spaces of the bike. However, to remove it, I need to fill in that tracing with black. Then, using the transparency tool and having the design selected, I am able to make a mask which temporarily makes the bike disappear. But once unselecting clip, it returns with the inside portion removed. And I just repeat this process for all the little white spaces that I have to do within the actual bike design. Now, you may have noticed that I ended up cropping out my signature during the initial tracing. To get that back, all I have to do is bring the original image back into Illustrator. But this time, to quickly isolate something as simple as my signature, I will just turn this image into a vector. In fact, I used to turn all my illustrations into vectors first when creating prints. However, that is a much longer process, especially for me, where my designs are very, very intricate with a lot of tiny details. To get a really good quality vector out of my type of illustration, it really requires a lot of work. So this is why I've stopped doing it this way. I still create vectors for certain clients who need larger prints, but for what we're doing, this will do well. But essentially, as you could see, what I've done is I created a black and white, very simple vector and deleted pretty much everything except for the signature. Then all I have to do is place the signature back into place and export the design as a PNG image, and we're pretty much all done. For setting up my prints, I actually use Microsoft Office Word. I know that I could print directly from Illustrator, however, I've been doing it this way since day one, and I don't really feel like changing it after all this time. It works for me, and I'm happy with it, but essentially all I have to do is turn the document into landscape for this particular illustration and upload the image. Now Word gives you these guidelines to help with centering, and voila, the print is ready for printing. But before pressing print, I do have to make sure that the printer settings are adjusted to the correct paper settings, and in my case it will be the Premium Presentation Paper Matte. Alright, so before we press print on the computer, I do want to go over the types of papers that I use for my prints. Now I have three different sizes. I have my 5x7s as my smallest, 8.5 by 11, which is my medium size, I guess you can say, and then I have my largest, which is 11 by 14. For the 8.5 by 11 and 5x7s, I use what's called a matte photo paper. So this is a matte photo paper. This is the 8.5 by 11 size, and I cut them down into the 5x7s. For the 11 by 14, I do use a different type of paper. This is a mixed media art paper, and it's a pretty decent weight. It's about 98 pounds. And yeah, it does have a bit of a different tone when compared to the matte photo paper. But in terms of what's available to me in my area where I live, this is the best case scenario that I found for my work. Comparatively, you will notice a different tone in the prints. However, that's all due to the paper. When you look at the prints individually, you get amazing quality with that. Now, talking about quality, it all comes down to the type of printer that you're using as well. And so for me, this is my second printer that I have been using to create prints with. It's my Epson ET8550, as I mentioned earlier. And what I love about this printer is that it has tanks of ink versus having ink cartridges like most printers do. And what I love about that is that it is tremendously efficient. I kid you not, but these ink levels, you can kind of see, they are starting to run low, but this is the original tanks of ink that I started when I first got this printer. And I got this printer a year and a half ago. And that's mind-boggling to me. I've only had to replenish one of the tanks, which was the pigment black ink. And that makes sense because my illustrations have a lot of black. And so I replenished that one just before a year of usage. And so it makes sense. Everything seems to be tracking as normal. So from the different colors, it appears to be, my estimate would be about 2 years for me, for my usage case. And for the black, looks like about a year, because that one's already at halfway. So looks to make sense. And I looked at the stats for the printer. I've done well over 2,000 prints in a year and a half. And so I can't complain, because with my old printer, which was also an Epson, it used cartridges, and I was replacing cartridges every 3 to 4 months. And it was extremely expensive to replace those cartridges. Quite honestly, the cost to replace these tanks, just one set of tanks, is equivalent to replacing all the cartridges in my old printer, which is insane. So the cost savings here are tremendous. Even though the body of the printer, the whole printer itself, costs a lot more, it's a much larger investment, it has paid for itself numerous times over. I wish I got this a lot sooner, to be honest with you. It is such a phenomenal printer, and it's working great. Honestly, it's working as if it is on its first day on the job. That's how great this printer has been. Very few hiccups or problems that have occurred with this printer. It's just running super smoothly, and I love it. But anyways, now it's time to load the paper into the printer. With the 11x14s, it's going to go into the rear feeder. So I've got it all set up there. There's a bunch of guidelines there. And then for the smaller prints, we're going to put them into the banks down here. So 11x7, not 11x7, the 5x7s are going into this little tray. So we're going to load them up here. And the 8.5 by 11 goes into a larger tray. And there we go. So we've pressed print, and away to go. All right, so there's the 5x7. Looks really nice and crisp, very sharp. Yeah, I like that. And here we go, we have the 8.5 by 11. Again, looks really good, nice and sharp. Very beautiful. So there we have it. The last step is just to basically put these prints into their poly bags. I also put a cardboard backing in with them so that they remain nice and sturdy, and it prevents any possibilities of damage or bending when they go out to get shipped. So yeah, basically that's the whole process of creating prints. Fast forward a week or so later, and we have our stickers. Here they are, mountain bike sticker. It's a die-cut vinyl sticker, great for indoor or outdoor use. And I use Sticker App to order my stickers. I've been using them for several years, and I really like the quality of them. Their customer service is really good, and their turnaround times are good as well. So yeah, I'm sure to be using them for the near future. And I also realized I never showed you the 11x14 print. There it is, it's the largest size that I offer. And like I mentioned, if I were to resize this illustration to make it even bigger, I would need to vectorize it. I mentioned it a little bit in the process part or the digitalization part of the video. But for the use case scenarios of going up to an 11 by 14, you do not lose quality in terms of, you know, resizing the image into a larger print. So that's why I do the method that I've been doing. But as I said, I'm not a professional at this, and so if you're into graphic designing and you have some tips and tricks that might help smooth my process or make my process even easier, definitely let me know. Send me a message or leave it in the comments below. I'm happy to hear you out. But yeah, this is what works for me right now, and I'm happy to have shared it with you guys, give you a little bit more of an in-depth look of how prints and stickers are made. So thanks again for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Be sure to like, subscribe, do all the YouTubey things, and yeah, catch me on the next video. Might be an adventure, maybe another art project, who knows, lots to come. Thanks so much, and yeah, keep living that dream.